Very good evening. I welcome all of you on behalf of Pusa Road CP Study Circle on today's webinar on QRMP and recent amendment in GST. And on this subject, we have our honorable and very learned young chartered accountant Rohit Baswani with us. As a brief profile to introduce him, Rohit Baswani is a FCA, ACMA, LLB, DISA, as a senior partner of Raj Kesari and Company, having office as Lakshmi Nagar. His areas of expertise and association like this. He is in practice as a chartered accountant since 1998. Presently, a special invitee member of Indirect Tax Committee of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, member of the Celtex Bar Association registered Delhi since about 19 years. Presently President of Bharatiya Vitt Salakar Samiti, a group of finance professionals working for the betterment of profession and nation. Have been member of Indirect Tax Committee of NIRC of Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. His areas of expertise in indirect tax including excise, service tax and VAT up to tribunal level, and having experience of more than 22 years in the field of indirect taxes. He is also rendering lecturers in various study circles, ICI faculty for various courses, bar association, corporate PSUs, trade association, and academic institution on indirect taxes and GST since more than a decade. With this, I welcome you, sir. And I would also like to add one more thing. He is from Mathura and having the blessing of Radharani and Krishnji. He is also neighbor at my Mathura, and his elder brother is my childhood friend. So with this, I welcome sir, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Rajeshi, for such a wonderful introduction. And other dignitaries on the dais, Jagjeet ji, Mudit Kumar Jain ji, Sunil Dhamija ji, office bearers of the Pusa Road CP Study Circle. It's always privilege for me to be here in this study circle and discuss the issues regarding the GST. As we all are aware that GST is always alive and always new. Even after 3.5 years, GST is having the regular changes. And during the period of lockdown, also we had so many changes in the GST regime. And the law is gradually developing. And we have many issues which the professionals are struggling, the business class is struggling, and we can say in a manner that some of the provisions are being relaxed, and we can call them the ease of doing business, but some of the provisions are being made more stricter, and we can call them the seize of doing business. So there are provision for seizing the doing business also in the GST, like you are ceased to generate the e-way bill in certain circumstances. You cannot file your GSTR1 in certain circumstances. Your registration may be suspended, may be cancelled, and like these strict norms are coming. But whenever there are strict norms for registration or other compliances, I am reminded of the excise regime and VAT regime. And the similar way the registration was in the central excise regime, it was not easy, like only just you file the application online and on the third day or fourth day you get the RC in your desktop. So now the something very precautions they are taking, and the Aadhaar authentication is the new era for the GST registration. And this Aadhaar authentication is not only the simple Aadhaar authentication, they are coming up with the biometrics Aadhaar authentication also very soon. And the persons who are applying for the registration and not able to do the biometric Aadhaar authentication, or the as per the provision, they may be liable to go to the facilitation center nearby for doing the KYC documentation. And KYC, like the bank, we used to have the KYC verification, and for that purpose, you need to go to physically, and there may be the verification of documents in original, and there may be the biometric capturing of the data also. The reason is that from the 1st of January 2021, many of the provisions which were amended by Finance Act 19, Finance Act 2020 have become effective. And one of the major area where the Finance Act 2020 made the changes regarding the penalty and prosecution, those provision has become effective from 1st of January 2021. And earlier the penalty was only on the person whosoever commits the offense. But now we need to understand it is not only the person who is committing the offense, but if someone is inducing him to commit the offense and taking out the benefit from that offense, then that person whosoever who has not committed the offense, but he is the beneficiary of that offense, may also be liable for penalty and prosecution also. And in GST, we generally see that in case of fake companies or the phishing companies or the fake invoices, the company owners are very small guys, like who do not have any profile. They may be the drivers, they may be the peons, they may be the very low profile individuals who are made the directors or proprietors of those companies. So now they want to stick, and they want to keep the check, and they want to penalize the person who is behind the scene also. So that is the recent development which is coming out, and it is also not very good sign for trade and industry and for professionals also. Whenever we read the news that some of the professionals are being involved in like these activities, it is not going to be a healthy information for the professionals. So with this little bit background, I have, for GST, we can discuss for any number of hours, and it is always a, pleasure to discuss about the GST, and I will be happy to, discuss the any queries or questions after the end of the presentation. So I am starting with a small presentation and try to keep the important changes which are there in the GST law. And know that this year, the year 2020, which has just passed away, has been the year of pandemic, or we can say the lockdown period year was that. And due to that, so many, limitation period was extended, and limitation was extended not only by the GST authorities. Under the notification, there was an ordinance on 31st of March 2020. But apart from the ordinance, the Supreme Court in suo motu writ petition number 3, they have taken up the matter, and the writ is still pending before the Supreme Court, and they have granted the relaxation from the limitation under the general law or special law, whether those limitations were condonable or not condonable. It was a very big step. Even today, the petition is pending, and the last order, the Supreme Court held that the limitation period will be extended for a period of 15 days from the lifting of lockdown. And now the date of lifting of lockdown is very important, and that is not very easy to find out in each and every cases, because the area was locked down and the state was locked down. So many different types of scenarios was there and is still there. So this itself is a very challenging to find out the date of lifting of lockdown. But this writ petition was for all of the general and special laws, which includes the taxation laws also. And the intention behind this writ was the limitation under the judicial system. But for administrative limitations, like filing the appeal under GST Act, or filing the refund application under the GST Act, and other limitation which were prescribed under the GST for claiming the ITC and so on. So there, after the ordinance on 31st March, which has become part of the Act, the act was passed in the month of September. Then the notification 35 was issued, which has already, the limitation has already expired on 31st of August. And now, so far as the GST time limits are there, those are at normal pace. And but for anti-profiteering, they have further extended the time limit, and the authority has been granted liberty to pass the order till 31st of March 2021 under the section 171 of the anti-profiteering provisions. And apart from these limitations, which just I flashed you here, we had the date coming very near, that is 28th of February 2021. And really, it is a very challenging date. Although we are sitting on 25th of January, but I am very much sure that we all auditors can very easily understand that how is it possible to cover up all GST audit till 28th of February 2021 for the financial year 2019 and 20, which is the extended date, and it is going to be challenged. After one date, second date is coming. After second date, the third date is coming. All dates are in continuation, and we professionals are now 24 by 7. And even after lockdown, when we are working from home, it becomes 24 by 7. There used to be a time when we started practice 20 years back. The sitting period for the practitioner were only in the morning and in the afternoon for twice a day. But now if you sit 24 by 7, then also you are good. You still have the pending work for doing. So this is the GST era. And now if you see the amendments which are coming in the GST are mainly on account of two, three folds. One is the area is the registration. They are not targeting the registration. They want to give the registration only to the desired person, only to the genuine business class. They want to check out. They want to prevent the unauthorized or the suspicious person from entering the ITC chain of itself by denying the registration. So this is the first area, registration. Then we have the cancellation, then we have the suspension, and very importantly, check on the ITC also. So first covering the registration, the rules 84A has been amended. It is date yet to be notified. Then biometric based Aadhaar authentication will be there in the GST. Then if you are going for biometric authentication, you cannot deny yourself that I have not applied the registration, or I am not the person, or I am not the owner. Still there may be the cases, although it is when there is a biometric authentication, no one can escape his liability when this authentication is there. So they are keeping another option also wherever it is not possible for verification of the KYC document. And for KYC documentation, the facilitation centers will be notified by the commissioner, and in that facilitation center, a person may be required to visit for KYC documentation verification. Now, the time limit for registration, general time limit has been enhanced. Earlier it was 3 working days. Now it has been enhanced to 7 working days from 22nd of December. Now registration will come generally if all the informations are complete, but you will see that in maximum or most of the cases you will find REG 3 deficiency memo asking you the further information and further clarification, because once there is a REG 3, then further time of 7 days or 30 days will be available to the proper officer. And this 7-day period is only where the Aadhaar authentication is there. In case the Aadhaar authentication is not opted, or where the commissioner has ordered for physical verification of the premises, that is very important. The physical verification of the premises. Now in this virtual world, there are a lot of cases which are coming. Actually, they don't have the physical presence or physical address like which the government authorities want. So they are facing the challenges for the registration also. If commissioner has doubt, commissioner means the commissioner or the authorized person or the proper officer, then before granting the registration, he can order the physical verification of the premises. Then this 7 days time is extended to 30 days. And within 30 days, the physical verification will be conducted, and then registration will be granted. And in case the deficiency memo is given, then further period of 7 days or 30 days, as the case may be, will be given after submission of the reply, and that is the case. And deemed registration provision has also been amended correspondingly, and the department or the government do not want to happen the deemed registration. What is deemed registration? Deemed registration is that you applied the registration, there was suppose Aadhaar verification, and within 7 working days there was no action from the proper officer. He neither issued any deficiency memo, neither he granted the registration. Then the GSTN portal will automatically grant the registration, and that is the deemed registration. The government don't want that this it should happen. The either officer should grant the registration or issue the deficiency memo within the time prescribed, 7 days or 30 days. And for deemed registration, although the provision is there, and it has been sub rule 5 has been amended accordingly. Then we have further new clauses added in the rule 21, which is related to the cancellation of the registration. Cancellation and suspension, these things we need to understand. And very huge power, or the sufficient powers has been given to the proper officer for cancellation or suspension of the registration. There are new clauses. There is section 29 of the CGST Act. There is rule 21 of the CGST rule, which provides for the cancellation of the registration. Three new clauses has been inserted. The one clause is relating to the violation in the provisions of section 16, and you are availing the input tax credit. It means you are not fulfilling the conditions prescribed under section 16 but claiming the ITC, then your registration may be cancelled. And if the details furnished in GSTR 1 and are in excess of details furnished in GSTR 3B. This is not only on this place the amendment is there whenever there is GSTR 1, but you are not filing 3B, or you are filing the amount of 3B which is lesser than the GSTR 1. There can be so many actions, there can be cancellation, there can be suspension, there can be audit, there can be investigation. And this is very important if you trigger from this mismatch, because if you see the GST and data from 2017-18, there was a huge gap, huge difference in the invoices uploaded in GSTR 1 and taxes paid in GSTR 3B. Now it is certainly reducing day by day, but they don't want to keep it accumulate further. And even your GSTR 1 may be blocked if you are not filing your 3B for 2 tax period, that I will also discuss. And if you violate the provision of Rule 86B, this Rule 86B is the newly inserted rule which is applicable from 1st of January 2021. And this rule we are going to discuss in this amendment, which provides that for discharging the output tax liability in a month when you have the supply of more than 50 lakhs, you cannot utilize the ITC more than 99%. Are they interested in 1%? I would say no, they are not interested in 1%, but they are interested in something else. And if you see the condition of that rule, you will appreciate and try to understand why this particular rule has been inserted. Although 36(4) was inserted, there was a hue and cry that why you are restricting the credit if the invoice is not appearing in GSTR 2A. They kept it, and even they reduced from 20 to 10%, and then further reduced to 5% from 1st of January 2021, and rule is still there. Although rule has been challenged in the High Court, so far as the constitutional validity is concerned, restriction from claiming the ITC or imposing a burden to which some another person has made the default. I am a recipient. I have no control over the supplier to furnish the invoice on behalf of the supplier, and supplier is not furnishing the invoice, then these provisions has been challenged. But if you see carefully rule, initially also when the rule was introduced, I discussed that there is no denial from the ITC in the rule. The rule is only deferring the credit of ITC and deferring till it is reflected. They are not saying you will not be eligible to claim if the conditions in section 16 are fulfilled. So this is a further condition that ITC has been deferred. Let's see how the court is taking the recourse. But in many of the cases, if you see in GST era, in many of the high courts, the high court are not very much in favor of these types of allegations or the litigation which is being made by the appellants. And if you see another provision in Rule 21A, which has been amended, suspension of registration without affording the opportunity of being heard. There are cases if the proper officer think that as per section 29 and rule 21, just I have referred 3 new clauses of rule 21. If the registration is required to be cancelled, immediately the proper officer can suspend the registration, not cancel, suspend the registration pending proceedings for cancellation of registration. But in practical sense, suspension is equal to cancellation. If your registration is suspended for the time being, you are not registered person. You cannot issue the tax invoice. You cannot have the ITC for that period. You cannot issue the e-way bill. Your business is totally seized. That's what I was saying, the cease to do the business. And this is the provision wherever the proper officer had reason to believe in some cases, because actually if you see the whole schema, they don't want the post-mortem to happen. In post-mortem they are not getting anything. The revenue is suffered. They may be having the person in custody, or they may be having the so many show cause notices, and they may be having so many other legal recourses. But now what they are planning a pre-mortem, rather than the happening the evasion, let the evasion do not happen at all. And but this is very risky. If you give the powers, arbitrary powers to the officers to suspend the registration, it can be misused also. It can be suffering to the genuine business class also. And there can be a suspension in registration in the similar manner when there is a variation in the turnover declared in GSTR 1 and 3B. You are uploading the invoice for 1 crore rupees, but in 3B you are paying the tax for 10 lakh rupees. There was a time, dear friends, you need to appreciate also, and I have so many instances in my memory when this 3B was being misused like the self-financing scheme from the banks. Whenever you need the money or you don't have the amount to pay the output tax, the people used to put the ITC over there, or file the GSTR 3B lower than the amount which is reflected in GSTR 1, on the pretext that in the next month they will file the additional amount and they will discharge a liability. So it is not a self-financing scheme, it is a legal document. And in these variation, the suspension can happen. And not only this, ITC also, if you are taking the ITC more than the ITC reflected in GSTR 2A, although they are referring in GSTR 2A, now 2A or 2B should be read together, because 2A and 2B are two different documents which are based on the invoices uploaded by the suppliers. So that matching is also going to happen in near future, and we have got the notices also, and that is based on the data table which are automatically being generated by the GSTN portal. The proper officer have the data information that in these cases the 1 and 3B there is a variation. In these cases the 2A and the ITC in 3B has the variation. So these types of cases are coming. And during the suspension period, refund will also not be provided if registration has been suspended for exporters or the inverted duty structure. Refund will also be stuck. And further, the proper officer has power to revoke the suspension also if he is satisfied that during the pendency of the cancellation proceeding, he can revoke the suspension also. So you need immediately need to act upon and approach the proper officer to revoke your suspension. So this is the, surgical strike on registration and suspension we were discussing. And now the rule 36.4, which just I have referred, started from 20%, now reduced to 5% from 1st of January. And again, this is based on this will be based on the invoice furnishing facility also, because now there are two entry points for uploading the invoices. One is the GSTR1 for monthly filers and GSTR1 for quarterly filers. And for quarterly filers, we are having another facility. Both these entry points, the invoices will be reflected in GSTR2A or corresponding 2B. So you can claim only up to the extent of 5% of the amount reflected in these document as an additional amount subject to pending reconciliation, not more than that. That is the rule 36.4. Let's see how the courts are coming out against this rule. And further, we have the blocking of GSTR1 in case there is a default in filing of GSTR 3B. This is another, fourth dimension which I want to highlight. You are blocked. You are not filing your tax return. Basically, 3B is the tax return, main return under section 39. Then you are blocked from filing the GSTR 1. If you are monthly filer, then for preceding 2 months, if you are not filing your GSTR 3B. And if you are quarterly filer, if you have not furnished your preceding quarter 3B, suppose due date for the quarterly return has expired and you have not furnished the 3B, so utility, the GSTN portal may not allow you to file the GSTR1. And even in case there is a default of Rule 86B, which just initially I have referred, and they have not filed in GSTR3B, then in that case, preceding one tax period only, not only they will wait for 2 months, even for single month 3B has not been filed in cases where Rule 86B is applicable, then this GSTR1 will be blocked. Now you see, by way of blocking of GSTR1 for those cases where there is a mismatch, where there is a non-filing of 3B or suspension, they want to check it out at the entry point itself that no invoices are uploaded on the portal where the ITC, where the tax is not being deposited and ITC is passed on. Because it is ultimately very difficult for the government to say that the liability of the supplier is shifted to the recipient so far as the uploading of the invoices are concerned. Now, the important leg of this recent amendment, Rule 86B, which is inserted from 1st of January, which talks about the restrictions on use of the amount which is there in e-credit ledger uh, up to the 99% of the output liability. First of all, try to understand this rule is not applicable in case in any month the taxable supply is up to 50 lakh rupees. It is not applicable. Secondly, if taxable supply during a month is more than 50 lakh, then zero rated supply or exempt supply will not be counted for taking this 50 lakh limit. And there are exclusion also from applicability of this rule, and those exclusion I will give you. One of the exclusion is the payment of income tax. Now it's very new concept in itself. It's a something they are saying, if you are declaring supply in a particular month for more than 50 lakh and you want to 100% utilize the ITC for payment of output tax liability, and you are not paying income tax say for more than 1 lakh rupees for preceding 2 financial years for which the due date has expired, then you are restricted up to 99%. But if you have paid income tax for more than 1 lakh in preceding 2 years, then you are out of this provision this rule. And if you are claiming the refund of more than 1 lakh in the preceding financial year, and refund of ITC is due to two reasons. One is the zero rated supply and another is the inverted duty structure. In both cases, if you are claiming the refund as an exporter or inverted, then this rule will not be applicable. And further, they have relaxed that this 1% will be calculated on cumulative terms. For example, from April to November, now you are filing return for December. So April to December, what is your output tax liability total? April to December, how much you have discharged from ITC? If you have discharged more than 1% from e-cash ledger already till November, then this rule will not be applicable and you can utilize the 100% ITC against your output tax liability in the month of December when you are making a supply for more than 50 lakh taxable supply. So that is again a relaxation. And I was trying to understand why these relaxations has been provided. You all are experienced sitting here and you may be having so many other ideas that what they want to catch. So any chartered accountant or the professional who is doing practice can easily understand what they want to catch from this. And this rule is not applicable for government, PSUs and local authorities. Naturally, it has to be excluded from this rule. And further, the most important is that you can get out of this rule if the proper officer is satisfied. You can approach and you can take the exemption from the proper officer. But the question arises, how do you administer this rule? Is it possible to administer this rule through the portal? I think it is not possible, because how do you know that for last 2 years you have paid the income tax for more than 1 lakh? Yes, I can understand now the income tax portal and GST has been integrated. Now GST return detail is coming in 26 years and everything is synchronized now between the income tax and the GST. But the cumulative figure also, I think the portal can calculate, but it will be very difficult to implement this rule. But seeing the artificial intelligence and the capability of the GSTN, we cannot deny this that it is impossible. We can say yes, due to the integration of the different departments and the capacity of the portal, they can get out the information wherever this rule 86B is applicable. So this is the new concept which has implemented from 1st of uh, January. Now they have enhanced the kilometer limit also for the validity of the e-way bill. And now the e-way will be valid for 1 day up to 200 kilometers. Earlier it was 100 kilometer only. Now the slab is of 200 kilometer. For every 200 kilometer, 1 day will be added. Now it's just double. I don't know whether doing the double limit is justified or not. If we are talking about 200, it means if the goods is moving from Delhi to Agra, it has to reach within 1 day. And if it is not reaching within 1 day, the e-way bill will be expired. Maybe the FASTag has enhanced the speed of the highways, or what compelled the government to enhance the limit. But certainly the practical difficulties may be there due to many agitations are going on in our country, and many traffic breaks are there, but they have doubled it. And restriction from generation of e-way bill, which I have already talked, that you may be ceased to generate the e-way bill in non-furnishing of the return. Earlier it was for 2 consecutive period. Now 2 months. Now they have uh, amended it to 2 tax periods, because now the tax periods are of two types. One, GSTR 3B is on quarterly basis and another is on monthly basis. If you have not filed 3B for 2 periods, you are out from generating e-way bill. And even in case of suspension, if registration has been suspended, you cannot generate the e-way bill from the portal. So this is again a new restriction which has been imposed. And limitation period for anti-profiteering, which initially I told you, it has been extended till 31st of March. This is the notification 35 oblique 2020, the COVID relief. But the government has taken the liberty to pass the order by the anti-profiteering authority till 31st of March 2021, within the limits as per the rule. And some of the provision which have been effected from 1st of January 2021, I already briefed you immediately some uh, little bit brief about the composition scheme amendment, although it is already amended by way of notification, but they enabled the section also to include the service composition scheme also, and the portion of services also. Claiming of ITC in case of debit notes earlier was linked to the original invoices, which is now delinked, and the date of the debit note will be relevant for the purpose of 16.4. Calculating the limit of September due date, the date of the debit note will be important. The surrender provision and the revocation provision has been amended. Surrender I have discussed, and revocation is basically, earlier the 30 days time was there to apply for the revocation of registration in REG 21. Now two more uh, time lags has been provided with the permission of the higher officers, 30 plus 30. So up to 90 days you can apply for the revocation if your registration has been cancelled, and it will be restored from the date when it was cancelled, from that date only. But if you fail to apply revocation within extended period also, you don't have the recourse, and appeal time limit may also be expired till that time, and further extension of condonation of appeal period is alive, so you may go for the appeal. But what they want, generally they want the revocation cases not to go in appeal, but to apply with the extended period. And then we have the section 31 amendment relating to issue of invoices, and they may relax the norms for issuing the invoices in case of certain service provider or notified service provider, and in some of the cases the tax invoice issuance may not be required. And 51 is relating to issuance of ETDS certificates. Penalty and prosecution, I have already briefed you, which have become effective from 1st of January 2021, and smaller amendment only consequential in Schedule 2, which has been notified. Now, just for your information, I am sharing one standard operating system procedure SOP, which has been issued by the CBIC on 27th of November 2020. That how they want to check out the registration by doing the physical verification wherever it has been ordered, or wherever the Aadhaar verification is not there. And they have came heavily on the officers who are allowing the registration to be deemed to be allowed under the rules, and they are saying that there should not be any case of deemed registration. And from 21st of August, the Aadhaar verification is started, and in some of the cases from 21st of August till 27th of November, the registration was granted on deemed basis. So they ordered the physical verification for those premises, and even the cancellation of RC can also be done if they have any doubt, or that wherever the return filed in GSTR 1 or 3B have mismatch more than 1 lakh. If there is a mismatch, it means you take in the registration, you try to understand the data which the department has. There may be some cases who take the registration, keep it for 2 months only, and dead it. And in these 2 months, they submit the heavy GSTR 1 amount, and the GSTR 3B is very lesser in comparison to that. So those type of cases, they want to catch it, and they issued the standard operating procedure SOPs for physical verification of the premises. What I want to sensitize here for the professionals who are in day-to-day practice, that this physical verification is now similar to the excise regime so far as central tax is concerned, but where the Aadhaar authentication is not there. If you are opting for the Aadhaar biometric will be implemented in later on. I just want to see the what types of criteria this SOP is giving to the officer while doing the physical verification. That they will check the manufacturing facility available with the manufacturer, whether machinery is there, plant and machinery is there, how much investment he has made, uh, whether is there any job work procedure. If job work procedure is there, where the job work actually exists, where the job worker is having the plant and machinery. Electricity bill speaks too much, and many issues are sorted out by electricity bill. I am cost accountant also, and in our cost audit it is a very important tool. Let me tell you, if there is one machinery, in case of gutka also, the tax liability in excise was based on the capacity. All the machine have capacity. Electricity consumption can be calculated mathematically. If you have produced this much of the product amount, goods during a period, this much of the consumption of electricity proportionately should have been there. This is a mathematical formula. And in excise also, and in cost audit, when we do, this is one of the criteria. And even in case of excise exemption, area based exemption, this there were some firms which were only issuing the invoices from Uttarakhand or the Himachal area where the exemption was there. But if you see the electricity invoice of those premises, you will easily get out that how much production was there in those premises. So this is, many things, many criteria they have given: the size of the premises, whether the premises is let out or owned, and if it is taken on lease, whether the ownership proof of the owner has been given. Generally, we see that there is a lease deed, but lease deed not conclusive. Who has executed this lease deed? That is very important. Who has made this rent agreement? Whether the person who is signing the lease deed is the really owner of the premises. If someone is not owner, how can he grant the rights to do the business in that particular premises? So that is also very important. How many number of invoices are there? Aadhaar or PAN number of those, uh, you know, uh, directors or the proprietor is very important. And they can ask for the KYC also, which is being done by the banks, because banking channel is one of the important channel which is there to assist in case of business, whether it is genuine or whether it is fake. In both cases, banking channel is playing very important role. So bank KYC also they can ask, and they can further additional documents can be asked in case of doubt. If there are premises, there is a owner, and there is lease deed or the ownership proof, but he can ask, officer can ask the genuinity about the income tax return and the bank account, capital employed, whether there is any loan which has been taken from bank, whether it is own fund or the loan fund which is being utilized for the purpose of business. And this speaks a lot um, about this. And then we have some of the provisions, recent amendments about section 50. So many writs was lying in various high courts about the amendment in section 50, which was with effect from 1st of September 2020. But later on, the CBIC in the instruction to the department, and dated 18th of September 2020, they have clarified, even if the legal amendment is with effect from 1st of September, but it will be retrospectively effective from 1st of July 2017. And the interest liability will be on the net amount, means output tax minus ITC balance, whatever you are discharging from e-cash ledger, that will be liable for interest. So that was clarified in the CBIC instructions. And then we have, Rule 46. Then in that case, the number of digit of HSN code, this is also very important. From 1st of April 2021, the HSN criteria is going to be difficult. The game changers of the GST from 1st of July, which we were used to discuss: number one, GSTN portal; number two, HSN system; number three, e-way bill; number four, RCM; and these invoice level matching. These all important triggers are slowly getting the shape. And although it has taken so much time, the 3.5 years has already been lapsed for implementation of the GST. But from 1st of April, you will see up to 5 crore turnover, the small suppliers who have the option to file the quarterly return also. In case of B2B invoice, 4 digit of HSN is mandatory. And it is not easy for the supplier to get the HSN 4 digit. They have to track the purchase invoices also, because the chain starts from importer or the manufacturer. And the first distributor or wholesaler is very important chain. Whenever you are taking a purchase invoice, ask for the 4 digit HSN code on that purchase invoice. And if the turnover exceeding 5 crore, then the HSN will be 6 digit. And in case of notified products, HSN 8 digit will be implemented from 1st of April 2021. And they have notified certain chemicals, chapter 28, 29, and 38, which will, in case of those chemicals, the 8 digit HSN code mentioning is mandatory. That is due to the custom reasons. They want to get it here, the 8 digit HSN system also. So this is, we need to gear up. The e-invoicing is coming, the HSN is coming, the regular filing of return is coming. No doubt about it. The business and professionals has also geared up, and now almost the return filing is coming at par slowly. But these issues are very important. And one more important provision, B2C invoices, where there is no credit required to be passed on. E-invoicing in the shape of QR code captcha has become applicable from 1st of December 2020. It has already become applicable for the suppliers who have turnover exceeding 500 crore rupees. This is not the e-invoice where the invoice captcha is to be taken from the invoice portal or e-invoice portal, or invoice reference number is not required. It is the internal captcha which is required by the supplier, and that internal captcha can be from ERP system and from payment system also. This can be generated. And OIDAR, it is mandatorily applicable. There are some of the suppliers like insurance, banking, and cinema theaters, multiplex, and transporter who have been exempted from this provision, and they are not covered. And B2C invoices are covered here. And they have waived the penalty till 31st day of March 2021 for the time being, and there will not be any penalty, but certainly it is going to be levied after 1st of April. 4 months time they have given to gear up to have the QR captcha. Now IT is also coming in a way for GST implementation. And although the supplier has geared up, but it needs to be more geared up, because slowly the limit of this 100 crore, which I am going to discuss now, where the e-invoicing is required. In case of B2B invoice, that is business to business, where the ITC chain is there, this limit was 500 crore from 1st of October 2020. It has been reduced to 100 crore from 1st of January 2021. And it may be further reduced in future. And if it is further reduced future, then we all are covered. We all may be covered, and we need to take care whether the supplier is generating invoice reference number from e-invoice portal first before issuing the invoice, because in case there is uh, no captcha generated from the e-invoice portal, that invoice will not be treated as valid invoice. And on if it is not a valid invoice, the ITC may not be transferred. Although again it is in the hands of the supplier to generate the e-invoice. It is not in the hands of the recipient to control the supplier. Recipient may not be knowing whether the particular supplier has turnover more than 100 crore, and he may be relying on the invoices issued by the supplier. But on the portal, you can easily check out whether e-invoice is applicable or not. And this, rule 48 relates to the e-invoicing, and as per rule, it is mandatory for the tax invoices to generate the invoice, but practically they are getting it covered. The debit notes and credit notes also under e-invoices. So that is not as per the rule, but they are making it. And facility for furnishing the, uh, nil return GSTR 1 or CMP 8 or 3B through SMS has been started, but this nil is nil. All the tables should be nil. No ITC, no exempt supply, no zero rated supply, no output tax liability, no exempt supply. Then only you can file this SMS, and the notification is 15th of October. The 1920 GSTR 9C limit has also been enhanced to 5 crore, that we all are aware. And let's see the budget if any changes are coming in this provision, because the GST Council has suggested amendment in provisions relating to the GST audit, and it is very important for all of us to check what types of amendments are being made. Although the ICI has made the representation in the month of December regarding the proposal with the GST Council, and accordingly, the annual return for 1920 also up to 2 crore has optional. For 1920 also it has made optional, and for 1819 return GSTR 9 and 9C, because 9C is part of GSTR 9, the date has already been expired. So these were the some of the important changes which I have tried to discuss here. Although we can discuss a lot many things, but some of the important issue relating to the annual return which is applicable for 1920, I would like to highlight over here. And before that, I have got one question in the Q&A section, and it has been asked that is e-way bill compulsory for a bill of rupees 3 lakh in Delhi having recipient address at zero point 0.5 kilometer from the supplier address? If it is zero point 0.5 or 100 meter or 200 meter, if you are using the motorized vehicle for transportation of the goods more than 2 lakh rupees within Delhi, e-way bill is mandatory. And if it is a B2B transaction, you have to generate the e-way bill. So that is the question. And in annual return, I wanted to highlight some of the area for 1920. We all know that annual return has been divided in various 6 parts, and these 6 parts relates to the output supply, input ITC, tax paid reconciliation, and reconciliation related to the transaction which is reflected in the next financial year, and some of the other information. And so many relaxation was given for filing the GSTR 9 and 9C for the year 2017, 18 and 18, 19. Now in 1920, some of the provisions uh, still are relaxed, but many relaxation are being withdrawn. For GSTR 9C, the relaxation given has automatically been withdrawn because it were only till 1819. And in 9C, we were given the relaxation. We were giving the relaxation in reconciliation table 5, table 12 related to ITC, and table 14 where expenditure was wise ITC is supposed to be reconciled. This relaxation will not be applicable for 1920. Now you need to reconcile the turnover in table 5, and I would rather say table 5 we were using for 17, 18, and 18, 19 also, whatever the columns were given. What they were saying, you can utilize the 5O table, other adjustments, and you can simply file the 9C. Now you need to reflect in the columns wherever it is given. If it is none of the column is applicable, then you can use the 5O. And table 12 is relating to the ITC. ITC as per books of account and ITC as per GSTR 9. And you need to reconcile those ITC, and table 12 earlier relaxation has been withdrawn. And table 14, generally we were using the relaxation where we were supposed to reconcile the ITC claimed with head-wise expenditure. Now this additional working we have to do, and for 1920 date is only the 28th of February. As the department has not extended the date for the 1819, all are worried whether this 1920 date will be extended or not. But if you see professionally, the system of extending date is not good. If we know that dates are static and it is not going to be extended, we are all prepared. But it generally happens due to the less preparedness of the department issues utility very late. Department initially was not able to formalize the format of GSTR 9. Later on they formalized the format of GSTR 9, but there are so many glitches also. So this table is GSTR 9 table 6, which I am reflecting on this presentation. Earlier in GSTR 9, this input in capital goods and input services table were relaxed, and they were saying you can put single column inputs for claiming the ITC, for reflecting the ITC. Now you have to report the ITC in capital goods compulsorily separate, and for inputs and input services, the option has been given either to reflect the same in the inputs column or separately in both the columns. So in case of GST audit, we should encourage that all the three columns are filed separately. We were, in many cases, we were using earlier also, but in many cases, we were availing the relaxation wherever it was not possible. But now there is no choice with the supplier, and he has to reflect the capital goods ITC compulsorily separately. So this is the change which has been afforded, which has been done in this GSTR 9, and some of the notes has been, replaced. And those notes are clarificatory nature. The earlier notification where the notes were inserted, they have replaced or amended the notes. Some of the important notes I am putting here. Although if I discuss one by one, it will be very lengthy process, because in itself the GST audit and annual return is an area. Still we are getting the issues, still we are getting the problems from members and issues from trade and professional fraternity regarding the filing the proper GSTR 9, where to fill the particular figure or where not to fill. This is the issue, still we are struggling. But now they have clarified that table 4, 5, 6, 7, 4, 5 related to output supply and 6, 7 related to the ITC. They have clarified that this figure is to be for the relevant financial, or only you need not to show the figures of preceding financial year. But certainly there is an interplay. If in GSTR 3B you have paid the taxes related to the preceding financial year, because 3B is the only way of discharging your tax liability in regular manner. And if you was you have paid the tax liability of the preceding financial year, then there will be a mismatch, because table 4, 5 is supposed to be filed only for the current financial year, and tax payment will be higher. In the similar manner, tax payment may be lower. In the similar manner, the ITC claimed in 3B may be higher. In the similar manner, the ITC claimed in the 3B may be lower than the GSTR 9 figures. So this all reconciliation can be asked later on if the amount is heavy. And for table 6, I have already discussed. And for 1920, the auto-populated data of table 8A will be of 1st November 2020. And if invoices are uploaded after 1st November 2020, they may still be appearing in GSTR 2A, because 2A is dynamic. Whenever you file the GSTR 1 late, it affects the period for which the GSTR 1 is filed. And there are some cases where the invoices are put in a later GSTR 1, so those invoices may also hit for the reconciliation purposes. In the similar manner, they have made clarification regarding the table 8C. 8C is the figure where we reconcile the ITC, where we say that this particular ITC has been claimed in the succeeding financial year, because it is appearing in GSTR 2A, but we are saying we have not claimed it in 3B. GSTR 2A is saying 1 crore ITC. You have 1 crore ITC invoices, but your 3B is saying, no, we have only taken 80 lakhs. Then this 20 lakh you need to mention in 8C. They have clarified it, and they have clarified that up to the date allowed in section 16(4) should be reported here. Likewise, table 10 and 11, 12 and 13 notes to the GSTR 9 has been replaced, amended. And we need to take care of those notes. In many cases, we have got clarification. In some of the cases, we may be more confused now after these, amendments. And if you see the table 10 and 11 notes, which they have linked from GSTR 1, is again very surprising, because the tax is to be paid by GSTR 3B only, and they are referring it to the GSTR 1. So this is all about the amendment relating to the new this annual return for the financial year 19 and 20. In the presentation topic, there was a topic for discussing the new return system also. And with the paucity of time and limited availability of time, I will discuss it in a summary manner and try to deliberate here what the main features of the new GST return, which is the QRMP, quarterly return monthly payment. It is known as QRMP. Before that, some of the questions I have got in Q&A section. If you allow, Rajesh, can I take some of the questions?
Please, sir, please, sir, please.
What are the changes for surrender section 29? It was amended by the Finance Act. Recently, the rules were amended. I have already discussed Rule 21, read with section 29. Some of the clauses in 29 has been inserted. The sync of GST 1 and 26 AS does not seems to be correct. In one of the case of 1920, is there any grievance that needs to be raised? I don't think the grievance needs to be raised. Reason being, it is first year, and there are, yes, certainly there are so many technical glitches. We have seen in many cases the 26 years has not been synced, although it is they have the registration under the GST, but how it is not synced, it is not covered. But when you are, and very important, one thing is that even if it is synced, what you will do? The turnover which is coming in 26 years is the GSTR 3B turnover. Is it your financial books turnover? No, not at all. And there will be huge difference in many cases, and there will be invariably difference in all cases, almost all cases. Almost means 90% cases, because there are, if you sell fixed asset, and is it going to be revenue in your balance sheet? No, not at all. If you have sold your old generator, is it your turnover? No, it will be coming in 3B. If you have made stock transfer to your other GSTN, is it your turnover? No, financial books, it will not be turnover. One of the very good friend of mine, professional, was arguing that we should show the stock transfer as revenue in PL account. And I was of the view, sir, we cannot do it as per the accounting standard also, and as per the prudence also. We should not do it, because if we are enhancing our turnover only for the purpose of reconciliation with the GST, that is not the correct picture. If we show turnover one side and purchase one side, it is basically overstating the state of affairs. Banks may be treating it as that you have so much of the turnover. then in financial books, how can you sell to yourself? So that is something which needs to be gradually developed regarding 26 years. Only this much I can say right now. Further, one of the question is, a person turnover is in excess of rupees 100 crore in 1920, but will exceed that in future due to changes business. Exceed it, if it is already in excess, then where is the question? And let me tell you about 100 crore and 500 crore. Since the implementation of the GST, if your turnover has exceeded in any year 100 crore, or as the case may be 500 crore, you are within the ambit of e-invoicing provision, and you will always remain even if your turnover reduces in the next year. Because, and that turnover is as per GSTN portal, that is not your balance sheet turnover. If you log in as per GSTN portal, if your turnover is more than 100 crore, it will allow you to log in for e-invoicing portal. If your turnover is less than 100 crore, it will not allow you. I will give you example. In 1 year you got a big contract, and you got the 50 crore as mobilization advance for doing the contract. In balance sheet there was no turnover, or turnover was very lesser, but in GST, as you received the advance, you paid the GST and your turnover enhanced. So that is the case. But certainly, if any of the year it has enhanced, it will be applicable. Should I continue to raising e-invoice? Yes, I told you. Once it is applicable, it will remain applicable for you. As far as the department stand is there and the law is there, clarification is there till date. One is a question, most, if the professional didn't able to file GSTR 9 of 1819 by 31st December, now when they are filing, in some returns late fee is reflecting and in some there is no late fee. If the late fee is not reflecting, why you pay? And Mr. Kushal Bhatia is there. You are rightly saying, in some of the cases in our office also, the late fee didn't reflect it. And we filed it. है ना? Now, when they are filing in some returns late fee, what about these in which late fee is charged by system, and what will be the late fee for late? No, very simple. There is a late fee, there is a provision, 100 plus 100, subject to maximum of 0.25% of the turnover of the estate. And so far as 9C is concerned, 9C is a part and parcel of the annual return. And there is no late fee. If there is only single compliance, there is no question of double late fee. But if you are not filing 9C, if you are supposed to file, or later on the general penalty can be imposed by the department, general penalty applicable in all cases, but though that has to be imposed, that is not automatic. And for that you can make the representation also. Further, there is question, are we eligible to input tax credit on civil and interior work done? If it is related to building immovable property, it becomes part of the immovable property or building, no credit is available. Now Rajesh ji has become more expert than anybody of us. I'm saying correctly because he is listening to so many speakers on daily basis. I may be knowing a little bit, 5% on 10%, but if he is listening to 10 speaker, he is incomplete in itself. Anytime you can ask to Rajesh ji
Yes,
also.
sir.
What is the time limit for 9C 2 crore or 9C limit is 5 crore for the financial year 1920. For 2021, it is 2 crore. Still, it has not been enhanced. So now it's time for 1920. For more than 5 crore, you are supposed to file 9C. Laptop purchased in December 20 from Dell, located in SEZ area. Dell provided invoice and bill of entry. This BOE is not appearing in SEZ section of 2A2B of December. How and when the claim of ITC paid to SEZ supplier? It should have been appearing in the column, but if it is not appearing, there are many cases cases the import is also not appearing. But you need to take the ITC. I think if it is not appearing, you can represent, and you can certainly call a record and claim the ITC also. Later on, you can say that it is a bill of entry which is not being reflected. There may be a technical glitches, but to my knowledge, now the bill of entries are appearing. For December, there may be a case because it is coming from south. I think Bangalore area, they have the SEZ located, and it should have been. But there is no ready-made answer for me to give you. It's a technical glitches. But to my mind, yes, ITC is available. Again, invoices payment made after 180 days, say after 190 days, whether reversal of ITC is compulsory or claim. You can only pay the interest. That is the only harmonized construction. Earlier also in service tax regime, the limit was there, and audit parties were doing like that only. But if you are doing audit, and at the time of audit, any of the invoices are unpaid still, then reversal is mandatory, because you have to report, or you should report, or you should take a call, because auditor all have their own way of doing and own understanding about the reporting. But if it has been paid, then only the differential interest can be treated. In the case of exporter, if the amount claimed in 3B is more than ultimate refund claim because certain supplies have not paid the GST, is the fault of the exporter? This is, the similar question, whether he is exporter or not. In many cases, the exporter has been caution list, who were claiming the refund with payment of IGST, and their ITC was not appearing in GSTR 2A. This in itself is but let me tell you one thing regarding this SEZ also, and this question also regarding Rule 36(4) also. The claiming of the ITC is basically based on Section 16 and 17. And if you have fulfilled the conditions, there is no condition in Section 16 that it should appear in 2A. What 36(4) is doing rule, that is only deferring. So in case, you have claimed and you have all the documents with you, you have claimed it, then you can fight against it. But after the implementation of 36(4), your case will be weak because there was a deferment in that case. And yes, Tamil Nadu, yes, it is, you are talking about the SEZ for Dell. It should have been, but there are technical glitches in some of the cases. And services were exported in 17-18, refund request made in same year, 17-18. ARN also generated refund not received, also no objection raised by the department. What to do? Very easy, make the representation and you will get the interest also. Certainly you will get the interest. There are provisions, and there are many judgments also that interest. And if the amount is used, you can approach the High Court for directions. And if it is not that much, you can approach to the commissioner or to the higher officers. Will GST will be applicable under RCM on commission to non-resident on exports of goods from China to Turkey, no nexus with India? Commission is basically you are rendering intermediary services. And in case of intermediary services, GST will paid to a non-resident. Okay. It means you are asking for the commission paid. And for commission paid also, the place of supplier rule will be applicable. And where is the intermediary located, that will be the place of supply, and you may not be liable for RCM. So you need to see where the supplier is located, who is charging you the commission. In this particular case, it seems prima facie it will not be applicable. A small amount of amount is small or higher, that doesn't say anything. I cannot say for anything. RCM applicable on SEZ and EU units. Yes, it is applicable. It is within the country. It is in the law of India. They can claim the RCM. They can pay the RCM and they can claim the refund also. There is no denial. Although earlier there were some hiccups and the refund was being rejected. They are SEZ and EOU are simply exporters. They can do the zero rated supply with as others also. But certainly for SEZ, we have notification where they can import without payment of IGST, locally procure without payment of IGST because it is zero rated. For EOU also we have the exemption notification, but RCM, yes, it is within India will be applicable. I have tried to cover all the question. Rajesh ji, would you like me to cover this new? Uh, please, and yes.
सर क्यूआर में एमपी भी मस्ट है सर, थोड़ा सा दे दो, थोड़ा सा ज्ञान सर बच्चों को सबको।
Okay, okay, okay. Quarterly return and monthly payment, and this notifications were issued on 10th of November, and it has become effective from 1st of January. We have time till 31st of January for the first leg where we want the applicability of this new rule for the quarter January to March 2021. Although by default they have made so many returns under quarterly and so many returns under monthly, but if you want to have the choice, go for choice till 31st of January. अरे तब तक भी नहीं जाएंगे तो कुछ भी नहीं होगा। 1 फरवरी से फिर नई चॉइस स्टार्ट हो जाएगी अप्रैल से जून क्वार्टर के लिए। अभी हाँ, 1 फरवरी के बाद आप अप्रैल से जून क्वार्टर के लिए चूज कर लेना, फिर आप वहां जा सकते हैं या वापसी आ सकते हैं फ्रॉम नेक्स्ट क्वार्टर। तो ये तो एक कंटिन्यूअस ऑनगोइंग है। यदि ये सक्सेसफुल हो जाता है तो निश्चित रूप से जो छोटे व्यापारी हैं, मैं ये कहूंगा उनके लिए बहुत बड़ा एक रिलैक्सेशन होगा कि वो क्वार्टरली रिटर्न फाइल कर लें। और किन के लिए होगा, देखिए जरूरी नहीं है सब लोग क्वार्टरली रिटर्न फाइल करेंगे, जरूर मंथली रिटर्न वाले भी बहुत होंगे। बहुत लोग अप टू डेट रहते हैं जिनको रिफंड चाहिए और जिनकी इस तरह का बिजनेस प्रपोजिशन है कि वो मंथली चूज करेंगे। लेकिन जो नॉर्मल स्मॉल सप्लायर हैं, B2C सप्लाई करते हैं और उनको ना GSTR 1 से ज्यादा मतलब रेंटल इनकम है या कुछ और है, तो क्वार्टरली अपना जो है रिटर्न फाइल करेंगे, टैक्स पे करते रहेंगे। उसका एक सिस्टम उन्होंने बनाया है। So you see the corresponding amendments were made in section 39, which I have highlighted, not going in detail. Proviso has been added, and proviso has been added in subsection 7 also relating to payment of monthly tax. And that tax is, PMT6 only. There will be some glitches also once the first quarter is over, and that corresponding changes may be implemented by the GSTN portal. But let the first quarter be complete successfully, and let's hope that this scheme is successful and it gives the relief to the small taxpayer. And there is an option which I have told you, the suppliers who have the turnover of up to 5 crore rupees, they can go for quarterly GSTR 1 or the quarterly GSTR 3B. Otherwise, uh, the exceeding 5 crore, there is no choice. It is monthly R1 or monthly 3B. There is nothing like that you file the GSTR 1 quarterly and file 3B monthly. No, nothing like that. 1 also monthly, 3B also monthly, 1 also quarterly, 3B also quarterly. It will go like this. And the problem of submitting the invoice where up to 1.5 crore rupees, the option was given to have the GSTR 1 quarterly earlier. Now up to 5 crore, this option has been given, but in all those cases, they can submit the invoice. Now you see, up to aggregate 5 crore, I have already told you, and this turnover will be as per the GSTN portal and not by you. It will be calculated. And this is, pan India turnover. But if your aggregate turnover pan based is up to 5 crore, you can choose different periodicity in different registration. In one registration, you can go for monthly, another you can go for quarterly. But turnover is pan India, pan based. So if during the any quarter, if your turnover is increasing, then you will not be eligible from next quarter. From next quarter, you have to go to the monthly only. And throughout the year, you can change. I have already told you that throughout the year you can opt for, and the date is like that till 31st of January. This option for first quarter is 1st January to 31st March, fourth quarter is going on. From 1st of February, option will start from April 21 to June 21 quarter. And it will go till 30th April, the last day of the first month. And from 1st May 2021, the option will start for July to September 21 quarter. And it will go on 31st of July 2021. So the huge time is there. You can think prior also, you can think after end of the quarter also, but don't think after end of 1 month. Then you will be in the next cycle. And naturally, you should have furnished the GSTR 3B return up to date. And for January quarter default cases, they were saying that for October 3B filing is mandatory. If you have not filed October 3B, you cannot change your option. And there is no need to again in every quarter choose the option. It will remain same. If you have opted for quarterly, it will remain quarterly. And for default, I have already told you, if you have filed GSTR 3B for October, it will be migrated to your default. How it will be migrated, that we will see. And this is the default migration. If you were filing GSTR 1 on quarterly basis up to 1.5 crore turnover, this option was available. You have been migrated to quarterly. But if you are filing monthly basis GSTR 1, then it is migrated to monthly. Because when you chosen that it is monthly, then they have by default migrated. But it is not that you cannot change. Today you can log in and change it to the quarterly if you want. And for more than 1.5 crore, up to 5 crore, they have been migrated to quarterly because there was no option for quarterly GSTR 1. So hence they could not ask your wish, what you want, even though they could have migrated all the existing taxpayer under the quarterly option, but they chosen to migrate monthly in case you are filing the GSTR 1 on monthly basis with your choice. So this is, and the change I have already told you. And if your turnover exceeds 5 crore, it is mandatory to exit. And you don't have the choice from next quarter. You will be exited and you will file monthly GSTR 1 and monthly GSTR 3B. For monthly, the date is GSTR 1 11th of next month. And for quarterly, the date is 13th of next month. And the quarterly invoice furnishing facility is also 13th. It is GSTN wise, GSTR 1 will be quarterly and optional invoice furnishing facility. This is optional. I think Rajeshji, main points I have already covered in this.
It's okay.
And if you have one of the question is coming, let me see. If a SSC has two different business with different GST registration number, will it be combined for e-invoicing or it will be for turnover for any purpose, whether it is e-invoice or QRMP, it is aggregate turnover, PAN based. But in this return system, you can choose different return. E-invoicing will be required. So with this, I am concluding my presentation, and with the thanks to the organizer for giving me this opportunity for presenting. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Rohitji, for a very wonderful deliberation on the subject and taking all the queries. I request Sunil Dhamijaji, our convener, Guruji, for a formal vote of thanks. Over to Dhamijaji, sir.
Thank you, Rohitji. Thank you very much for our very good deliberation covering the amendments and dealing them very nicely for the benefit of the members. I wish the process continues, and we are really thankful to you from the Pusa Road Study Circle, as well as our personal thanks to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank
you, sir.